Hey, everybody. So this is the Lashley Podcast, and we were talking about macros and calories today. We have Shelby Clindinst, and Ian Lashley, and also Matt, the Honey Badger Gottermeyer here. And we are live on Facebook as well. Matt, wave at the camera up there. Awesome. So you can hear us talk live on Facebook when we do the podcast today. So, but our topic today is macros and calories. And real quick, I'm going to start off by saying, what is a macro? Macro is, for example, protein, fats, or carbs. It basically stands for a macronutrients, which was what I just said. Protein, fat, carb that we use for our bodies to make it function. Right, Matt?
Correct, Ian.
Correct. Okay. And then we have a calorie, which is basically a unit of energy, right, which we get from food or fuel or source, which in our circumstance would be food, not gasoline like your car.
But it's interesting. A calorie is a unit of heat.
Unit of heat, yeah. Yeah, it's actually, I stand corrected. It is a unit of energy too.
All right.
So that's what we're going to talk about today. And so the first thing we're going to go into is should you count your macros and calories? What we mean by that is, writing down or looking up, okay, this piece of food is worth this, or this piece of food has this many calories. So should I track that? Should I try to hit a calorie amount or limit on a regular basis? What do you think? What do you think, Shelby?
I think it is important to have some sort of tracking, whether you need to pay attention to all macros. We may agree to disagree on, but I do think that it's very helpful for people to track what they're eating just to have a healthy habit.
Right. So we were kind of talking about before we did this about, what's like the best way to kind of track your food or, what you're eating or whatever. And we kind of all came to agreement, right, that at least keeping some sort of food log. And I don't think it's necessary if you have to get, especially if you're just getting started, to just use like a calorie counter or something, right?
Well, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can get a notebook and just record everything yourself, but you're going to want to be really specific. And if there, most food that you get coming out of a box and a bag, everything's going to have a nutrition label. But if you're things you get from the meat counter or fruit and vegetables, you can you can just Google how many calories in a banana, and it will tell you. And you want to be writing all that stuff down, or I don't even know how many apps that you just enter what you ate into it, and it brings all the information up, and it keeps track for you.
Right. So for you personally, do you count your calories, the Honey Badger?
I don't anymore, but when I quit drinking and I was trying to lose weight, I did for about a year. I'm trying to think. Which app I used. It might have been Active Tracks, but after a while, I could just do it in my head.
Is that the one for seniors?
Yes. 60 and over.
60 and over.
You have to have your Buckeye card to use it.
So that would be like what do you recommend, Shelby, for for someone eating for like calories and stuff on a regular basis, or how do you go about using like your clients?
It's usually MyFitnessPal, just because if I want to check in on what they're eating, I can do it virtually. I don't always have to I guess they could take a picture of their notebook and send it to me, but I always recommend MyFitnessPal because it has obviously the calorie breakdown and the macronutrient breakdown. And obviously, it is easy. So if you're not very technically inclined, you may want a notebook, but it is very user friendly.
Right. So, now I personally track my calories. I actually use MyFitnessPal, like what Shelby said, she uses. And I do roughly right now, I'm doing 2,500 calories.
Really? I would have think it would be more for you.
Well, maybe it should be, but
Calculating your macros.
well, I was, so maybe I shouldn't. That's why I don't personal train anymore.
I bet I'm pretty close to 2,500.
Oh, holy crap! Maybe I need to be eating more calories.
Shelby, you probably don't have any idea of what you hit every day?
I do not. I do zero tracking. Now I've tried several things over the years, but my most recent endeavor, I do not track anything whatsoever.
Okay.
Tell us though, like what do you do though?
Well, currently I am on the carnivore diet. So it's pretty simple. I know exactly what I'm eating all the time. There's no guessing. And I'm also not trying to hit a calorie goal or be in a deficit. I eat to satiety. So I eat until I'm full. Sometimes I have 2 meals a day, sometimes 1, sometimes 3. And then snacking, I do that, but it is all meat. So like pepperoni or salami or something like that for a snack.
Yeah, that's perfect. Sorry, we have a guest here walking in. So that's that's roughly what I try to do too. But I think I was going to ask you, Matt and Shelby, for someone walking in that's like, that's never lost weight before, it's never exercised, or maybe they're exercising, right, but they're not seeing as much progress as they want to see. What would we recommend to somebody do, right? Because I know, we talked about discipline, creating the habit, which it sounds like why you don't do it, Matt, anymore is because, like, right, okay, if I eat this, this, and this, it's going to probably come out to roughly this amount of calories, right?
I mean, I can do it in my head, but it took me a while to figure out how to eat right. I used to think the whole thought of, well, if I just go really hard in the gym, I can eat whatever I want, And then I would try this and I would try that. And Shelby and I talked about it yesterday. And then I found what worked for me, and I stuck with it. Now, my thing's fasting. Shelby and I were talking yesterday. That doesn't agree with her. She doesn't like it. It doesn't work for her.
Right.
And she can tell us all about the carnivore diet, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be great for me or you. It might be.
Right.
I always tell people when they first come in, I don't tell them to do this diet or that diet. I just said start eating whole food. Real food. Right. And get off the processed food first. Right.
Now, but I mean, do you agree with if you can't track it and you can't measure it and you can't see progress?
I think everybody should start with it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I've told you this a lot of times. What I recommend too for people, or especially if we have someone that let's say they're coming in, they're exercising. That let's say eat 21 bad meals a week. Right. Most people eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. 21. Is that my math? My math correct? Okay. So instead of eating 21 meals of, like, let's say, you eat McDonald's 21 times a week, right? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Whatever you would be considered healthy, ask somebody, Google it, ask us, which, side note, another good reason people, get trainers or ask us for help, is because what Matt is saying, everybody's body's different. So, right. So we can give you we give people plans that get you from point A to point B and give you guidance. That's what the point of, coming to a gym or finding somebody to help you is. But, regardless, instead of eating 21 meals of bad food, go to 20, right? Like small changes that you can track, like kind of like what Matt says, you could go eat a salad for 1 meal and then eat McDonald's for 20 meals. And the next week, go 19 meals, and then 18 meals. And you're slowly kind of withering it back as far as just eating a crap load of McDonald's or, whatever you're eating.
I agree. There's a lot of people that do the baby step kind of thing, which is that's what you call it. Like, I kind of do the opposite and say,
right,
like, let's start right now, right?
Like rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I do gym-wise. I mean, it depends on the age of the person and their ability and stuff like that. But especially with the food, I just feel like the baby step thing it prolongs whatever they're already doing that brought them in here in the first place. It's just a different thought, idea.
Right. I think it's all circumstantial. I think you can read people pretty well. Matt and I think all three of us are pretty good at reading people. And so if your client seems like super intimidated by the gym and by the whole process, it might be good to start with baby steps and then jump in. And some people come in, it's years past due and they are just ready and they're ready to jump in, but that could deter other people. And with me not tracking anymore, that is like 9 years into weightlifting and trying many, many different things. So what works for me might not work for everyone, obviously.
You're talking about lifting too, not just the food, or just the food?
For the 9 years?
Yeah.
Both. I've been lifting and experimenting with diets for 9 years.
Yes, and same way. I've came to figure out that I have to track it, or else I eat a whole bag of Cheetos every night. So real quick, we'll start wrapping it up here. We just want to talk about macros, calories, what they are, some recommendations, what you can do. Before we end, though, let's give, so what would be your number one advice? We'll take turns. Your number one advice to when it comes to macros, calories, or starting off your eating regimen. Like what would you recommend? And you can elaborate a little bit and go, okay, from a beginner standpoint, and then kind of from a little bit more advanced standpoint. Because I know we have a lot of people that that listen or watch or come to the gym. That some of them are brand new, and some of them have been coming for a while, right? So we can kind of touch on both of those, like. Number one recommendations, macros, calories, and then food go.
If I could just do one, I'll just pick one of the macros. I would say protein. Whether you're trying to lose weight, put on muscle mass.
Well, and let me interrupt you there real quick too. Like, and two, would you even recommend them count them? Like, you don't have to.
With protein, I would.
Okay.
Right. Usually, I tell people to get at the very least 50 to 60% of their body weight in grams of protein every day. And then from there, I guess I'd work on fats and carbs, because I feel like that's the part that kind of differs with different people. I'm high carb diet, low carb diet. I'm an athlete. I sit at a desk every day. Like, those things can change, but I feel like a lot of people miss the protein piece.
Right. Now this is super serious. I mean, with your advanced stages of age, do you count fiber so you keep your digestive system working correctly?
I believe that's what's my. Is it Metamucil? I'm on so many. Maybe I get that from my insurer. I'm not quite. I don't remember exactly what it was. But yes, my diet high in fiber. Got to keep the machine going.
Right. You got anything else for everybody listening?
I'll pass it on to someone else.
Let's see. I would say my number one tip would be to listen to how your body responds internally. So just because someone says like a keto diet will get you from A to Z, and then you're at the B point and you just feel like crap, but you're holding on because someone promised you that keto was good for you. Just stop it right there and go a different route. It's not going to hurt anything, because if your body is disagreeing with something, you're not going to make any progress no matter how many people tell you it's a good diet to lose weight.
Yeah, 100%. And so, my tip of advice is I say, listen to both of their tips of advice. But I think regardless of whatever you got to do at any point you are in your journey, with your fitness journey is, right, you have to keep it simple and consistent and stay disciplined so you can have success. Whatever you decide to do, you gotta pick something, you gotta do it. Keep it simple, because if it's simple, you're gonna do it. If you can make it an easy habit, then you're gonna keep doing it, and that's gonna give you success.
And to reiterate what Shelby said, she said 9 years she tried different, right? And her and I were talking about yesterday. There's a lot of trial and error, right? And if Shelby says, someone told me to do keto, like she says, if you get to point B or C and it's not working, try something else. And if something doesn't work in the beginning, it doesn't mean, I just can't lose weight and I'm going to quit.
Right.
I know certain people in this gym that go see someone who takes blood, right?
Right.
And get really specific answers of what their body needs, what kinds of foods and stuff like that.
And to elaborate on that, I have, over the 9 years of trying to do it myself, I finally gave in and sought help from a doctor. But that gave me a baseline to start with. And I could still do the fasting if I wanted to, eating the things I was supposed to. And I did try the fasting, and like Matt said, or like we talked about yesterday, it just did not work for me. It made me feel terrible, so I stopped. I didn't try to keep doing it just, in hopes of losing some weight. Because if your body's fighting it, you're never going to lose the weight no matter what.
Yeah, that's something you got to remember too. And like we said, Shelby says she's been doing it for 9 years. Matt, how long have you been exercising now and stuff? Or
about 8, 9.
Probably about 8 or 9 years. And I've been involved with it, pretty much my whole life for the most part as well. So, but one thing you got to remember is it is very important. It's crucial. Whatever you decide to do, you need to do it. You need to do it before yourself and for your family and for all your loved ones, because if you're functionable, you're movable, you live longer, you have a better quality of life. That's what's really important. What it comes down to, regardless of what you try to do, is just remember, like, tell yourself right now, I'm telling you, if you don't believe yourself, you are the most important person in the world, and you are Superman or Superwoman, and you need to do this for yourself so you feel better and you can be better for your family. It is important. And if you don't think you're important, you need to change your mindset and change.
Amen.
Right? So remember, if you believe it, you can achieve it, and what we do in this life is going to echo into eternity. So get after it every day, and we thank you guys for listening.